back. What the hell?
I saw that on Instagram.
There's 3 settings. Look at this. Isn't that cool?
Wow.
Got that from the gas station yesterday in Bastrop, Texas.
Nice.
Anyway, welcome to another episode of Romero Pictures Heavy Metal Indie Brigade presents the Wagner Wiles with Sam and Lance Wagner and, of course, Tyler Shea Cohn and their special guest tonight. Well, I'll let you guys tell them because I forget which first name he goes by now.
I got it.
Okay.
Our special guest tonight is Josh Logan. This guy has been in the industry for more than 30 years, I believe. More than 30. He can correct me. But Josh is an old friend of mine. We knew each other before I even got chainsaws. As a matter of fact, Josh is the guy that got me in the front door for Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Nice.
And but even before I did that, we did a short film together that I'm going to ask him about on the show because I forgot the name of it. But I want to talk about this short film that we did together. But Josh and I moved to Los Angeles around the same time, and he just continued to just skyrocket with his career, and he's just been killing it. So I'm really excited to talk to him tonight.
We are too.
Very cool. I am going to drop down. You guys need anything, just give me a holler.
Right on. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you,
You're
Joe.
welcome.
Tyler,
Lance, Sam.
Hi, Tyler.
Hi, how are you?
did you hear I was at the gas station yesterday?
Yeah, I heard you had the mask on.
Yeah, I met one of my best buddies from ever, Lance Dale. Met him for the first time yesterday, and his beautiful wife Alicia.
Nice.
Hey, it's Ian Steyer.
Hey, everybody.
Another best friend. So many best friends. Everybody's showing up.
So you guys went to Bastrop, to the gas station, which obviously our guest is also very familiar with.
Putting in a stage for live music.
You did what?
Roy is putting in a stage for live music.
Oh, good. So for 2023, that's perfect. Hey, what's up, Brian Clegg?
Not for
We
soon.
got
This should
to
be
see
soon.
Clegg yesterday, too.
Yeah, we saw Brian Clegg yesterday.
Nice.
My nemesis. Tried
Is
to
this,
shout
very,
out.
this isn't very horror film right here.
Dude,
Depends
it's-
what kind of horror
Yeah, I mean, it
movie
could have
you're
been
looking at.
it could have been a prop in The Exorcist for all we know. I mean,
Oh, that's what it was.
yeah,
Yeah, this house was built in the 1800s, so I'm sure it's haunted.
it's haunted for sure.
Yeah.
Is there a goat out back by chance? No, it's not. That gunny.
No. There's
Yeah.
not.
So yeah. Anywho.
So let's bring on our guest here. If anybody heard, Josh Logan, JML Films. If you want to look up JML Films, you will see just a whole bunch of different pictures that he's worked on. Hey, here he is,
Oh,
Josh Logan.
where did you guys come from?
Welcome.
Here you are.
We just dropped into your living room.
Yeah. With your awesome connection there.
Yeah, my
Jeez.
fiber, which I'm currently using because Tyler mentioned that the movie was called Vengeance. And I have a capture of it that I'm uploading to Vimeo right now over my fiber connection. So we'll see
Nice.
Oh man.
if you guys would like to take a look at this. I haven't watched it in years, but I remembered that I did capture it a while back.
I can't believe you captured that.
He was on it too.
Yeah, well, I
Bam,
have it
bitches.
in my tapes. Like, it's one of those things. It's like you've got this, I've got this stack of tapes that I carried around with me for 30 years. And each time, the tapes kind of collection gets smaller and smaller and smaller as things get more uploaded and digitized. So eventually I just, took the time to digitize it. But yeah, I've got all my old crap from I've got stuff from high school that I captured because
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's awesome.
just trying to get rid of physical things and saying I can get rid of this and I'll capture it. And
Tyler has the same attitude. Tyler doesn't believe in physical media.
Yeah, you guys clearly do though. That is
Yes,
quite a
we
collection
do.
there.
Yes, we do.
This is just a piece of it.
Yeah, that's just like the horror. That's just the horror section right there.
Yeah, for sure. What other sections do you have?
Just family and just general movies, sci-fi, X-Men, the DC Marvel stuff, crap like that.
Yeah, cool.
The good crap.
The good crap,
That's
exactly.
right.
Thank you guys so much for having me on the show. This is so much
Well,
fun.
thank you.
We're
for coming
so
on.
pumped. Your IMDb stuff is, I was flat, just like he's been done everything, literally. You've done everything.
For some
You can
reason,
also look
Vengeance
at it
wasn't on IMDb. I don't know why it wasn't on there.
It could be categorized as a little schizophrenic also. It's like bouncing all over the place.
Yeah. So,
Like-
I mean, just a few of the credits, everybody. That Josh, you worked on Passion of the Christ. You worked on The Exorcism of Emily Rose.
Yeah.
You worked on obviously Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and you are familiar with the gas station in Bastrop, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It's still one of the best locations. I mean, even 30 years later, it's such a great place to shoot. Like, it's just Bastrop itself is such a beautiful place. It's so unusual, stands out in everywhere in Texas, and it's just it's really cool and creepy, really unique.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, absolutely.
Even after the fires.
Yeah, and I wasn't here. I mean, I wasn't in Texas during the fires. I forgot where I was living. Might have been here or Hawaii or something. But so after the fires, because I remember most of it burned down, but it was still just a great place. I mean, tell me more about the
You guys
fires.
were just there, right, Lance and Sam?
We went to the gas station, spent some time with some friends from Wisconsin,
The Dales.
the Dales, and we got to see Roy and Lisa.
Roy and Lisa
Okay.
own the gas station now, and they sell the barbecue and everything there. And
Oh, cool.
we hang out with them on occasion. They're good people, great people, amazing.
And Roy also he organizes the Cult Classic Convention, which Josh, I got Joe Stevens to go to this last year.
Oh, wow.
Talked to Joe Stevens and I were there together, and then 2 days after the end of the show, he called me and he was like, "Hey, I got somebody who wants to say hi to you." And he put Kim Hinkle on the phone.
That's so
So Kim Hinkle said hi to me.
Oh, man, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was just crazy. And then a year before that, 2 years before that, when I went to the Cult Classic, I ran into Lisa Newmeyer. Chainsaw. So Josh and I aren't just connected with Chainsaw, but we obviously have that connection. So that's why I'm bringing that stuff up. But we go all the way back to Vengeance. No, we go back to, we used to do the medieval festival, the medieval festivals together.
Yeah, the Ren Fairs. Yeah, we went to Ren Fair together.
And Josh, and anybody who's in Texas, if you've ever heard of, and Josh, you can correct me on this, Richard Garriott's Haunted House. What was that?
Yeah, it was Origin Systems. Richard Garriott's, what was it called? Spook House. Oh man, I actually have videos. Britannia Manor. That's what it was called.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And there were like lines just
It
for
was
miles to get into this place.
it's like it was. This was I did 92 and 94. I think of that before, and that was the last one was 94. Before he shut it down. But like, it's the kind of spook house you couldn't do now. It was a full contact spook house.
Oh,
It took an hour to go through. It was designed by the most top end video game designers that were on the face of the planet at the moment. It was sort of based loosely around his Ultima video game series. But he essentially just opened up his house, turned his entire property and his entire house into a spook house. It took an hour to go through. You could win or lose at the end. It was like living a video game. You would definitely get wet. You'd probably get burned. We had people pee themselves. We had people it was incredible.
were there waivers? Waivers had to be signed.
Everyone had to sign a waiver. And
Wow.
it was essentially an Origin Systems tax write-off. And so the entire thing was free. And we'd left 50 groups a night through, and the groups of 4 people, and people would camp out outside Richard's house. And, basically the line just got as long as it was. People would camp out 2 or 3 days to get into this thing. And it was amazing. I mean, really, some of my best memories ever were from this spook house. It ran 5 days leading up to Halloween, and there's never been anything else like it.
Yeah, they used to do, I remember they did, the news stations would be out there, and there were news stations from other countries here talking about it as well. It was a big, big deal. And so Josh worked on those 92, 94. So you did 92, then you did Chainsaw, then you did Garriott's Haunted House again after Chainsaw.
Yeah.
And then I believe it was 97 you moved to Los Angeles?
96, yeah, June of 96.
96. Okay. All right.
Wow.
Have you stayed
Yeah.
there the whole time?
Have I, what, sorry?
Have you stayed there since 96?
Yeah, I've been in LA since 96.
Wow.
Wow.
And
a lot of different places around LA, and LA is so massive that you kind of can feel like, I lived in Hollywood for 5 years. I lived in Studio City for 5 years, and now I've been in Montrose for 5 years. So it's definitely a lot of different environments that you can experience while you're here.
Yeah. And Josh did, so obviously when I met Josh, he was doing special effects. And then I remember when I was before I moved to Hawaii is when you started to get into music. So you started composing.
I did, yeah.
Jeez.
I had a brief foray into film composing, which I thought I wanted to do at the time. And by the way, to set the record straight, because I know that Jenna mentioned something in one of your podcasts about how I tried to talk her out of getting into makeup effects.
Yeah, set the record straight. This is awesome.
That is true. I did try and talk her out of it, but not because I had lost my love for effects. I always loved doing effects, and continue to love doing effects because I just did some for the Relic, which I hadn't done in like a decade, and it was so much fun. It really reminded me what I loved about doing it, because I love making monsters. And you're hanging out with your friends, you're doing cool stuff, you're making stuff that that makes people interested in what you're doing, but the business of makeup effects is terrible and remains terrible and is getting worse. And so that was my edge of discouragement towards her, was not that it can't be an incredibly fulfilling, really rewarding creative career. But I have friends that I quit doing effects in like 2006, I guess was the last time I did effects on Species 4. Which, if there was a 4 in a series, it was probably me. I did a lot of 4s. I did Chainsaw 4, Children of the Corn 4, other 4s, Species 4, Wishmaster 4.
Yeah, I saw that one. Yeah.
So lots of 4s. But I quit doing effects because there's no way to get ahead doing it. And there are always other reasons that go into that, because really what I wanted to do was make movies. I thought that I wanted to do effects, and the whole time I was like, actually what I should be doing is making movies instead of just making monsters. And so I started reaching around for other things to do. But ultimately the business of special effects is really unfortunately being, and it's not even like what I was thinking it was at the time, whereas everything's going to be CG. I mean, everything is CG, but now the big effects houses, like, people don't even sculpt anymore. They don't sculpt suits. It's all being done 3D and then 3D printed, which is incredible, like futuristic sci-fi technology. Like, right. But all of those Stormtrooper suits and all the recent Star Wars, like, those are real. Like, those were absolutely built and hand created, but they were sculpted digitally. They were printed digitally, assembled digitally. And so it just kind of ends up being a whole crew of people like sanding and painting costumes instead of sculpting and molding. And like, it's just,
I never even knew that.
Like a manufacturing process, which is incredible. And like, I've been over to Legacy. A good friend of mine, Dave, works there, and the work that they do is insane. Like, it's just perfect, like millimeter perfect. But there's just so much of like what I got into it, what I loved getting into it. A lot of that aspect is really kind of starting to evaporate, and kind of permanently. Like, if you can sculpt everything in 3D and make it perfect and print it in 3D, and you can scan someone's body, you don't have to do body casts anymore. Like, people just walk into scanners and then they just print out this big, like, millimeter perfect scan of someone's body. So there's a piece of the art of it that has definitely gotten lost. And I mean, the work could continue to improve and get to be more fun and get to create some incredible, unbelievable stuff. But at the same time, like, getting your hands into things is just starting to not become as much a reality as it used to be. It's just a little sad.
But you were able to do that with The Relic. So The Relic is a movie that you wrote, produced, directed, and I assume you also did the special effects on as well.
Well, I worked with my friend Matt at Soda Effects, which was the shop that I spent the most time at in my effects career. Roy Canarum runs this shop called Soda Effects, and I started there in Wishmaster 2. And then I stayed there for, 5 or 6 years, and we just had such a good time together. So Matt and Roy are now partners at Soda Effects. And so Matt Folletta is a longtime friend of mine. I met him in '97 in Wilmington, North Carolina, working on a movie called Virus. And I was there on the crew from out of town, and he was a local, and we met in a bar at some point and ended up hanging out a lot. And then he invited me to move into his house because he had this house that was like right next to the studio, which was way better than the hotel. And we just became really good friends. And at the end of the show, I said, hey, if you ever want to move to LA and pursue this stuff for real, you're welcome to crash on my couch. And he did. And like right then, he just packed up his house and moved to LA. He actually got to my apartment before I did. And we were roommates for 5 or 6 years, and we got into effects together and continued on from there. So we've been working together for 25 years. I don't know what's the math on that. Yeah, 25 years. And
soon after you had moved there, because you've been in LA now for about 25 years, right?
Yeah, 25 years.
Okay.
So Matt and I have been working together for forever, and that was, the fact that we were friends and that I know he's always down for a challenge is one of the reasons that I knew we could make the Relic. Like him and Roger Nall, who is the VFX component, who was also the cinematographer, and like he built the mask itself in the Relic, and like he's just we've become kind of a crew of artistic people that sort of cover each other, and like all of our good parts support each other's deficiencies, and it's become a really great crew. But yeah, Matt and I built most of the monster stuff together. So Matt's shop, and then it was really fun to get back into that stuff with him.
And you did it old school style. Obviously, you didn't have all the computers and all the laser printing and everything.
No.
You went back to your roots.
Yeah.
And created the monsters.
Yeah, it was one of the things I really wanted to do, because my love of practical monsters and practical effects has just continued. And while CG can, especially now, can be as photorealistic as you could ever want it to be, there's something nostalgic for me in just the big rubber monsters. And that's not necessarily that it's always the best way to go, but that there are parts of the physical, tangible thing that I think you just start to miss. And especially with actors, like working with actors as a director, like actors are telling your story, and without a connection to the actors, to the other parts of the story. And if you've just got a grip standing there with a tennis ball on a pole going, I'm the monster, like, actors respond to tangible physical ideas, like things that they can really connect to. And so I really wanted to make a monster movie that celebrated the idea of having physical things there. And despite my enjoyment of building them, it was also about making a film that continued to celebrate that.
Yeah. So I have another question. Sorry, and Lance and Sam, I'm talking a lot. If you guys want to interject, please.
No, I want to ask some questions, but I want to get to know Josh first.
Okay.
That was the question I was going to ask. Brian wants to know, was that the one virus with Jamie Lee Curtis in it?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
She was in a horror film long time ago.
Yeah.
Not one that's very famous or anything.
No, I can't.
Yeah, it was kind of an obscure little movie, I think.
Yeah.
I don't even
Came
know
out in 78.
anyone might have even seen it or not.
I think
Were you even alive in 78? I mean, who remembers that stuff? It's just
Right. Just my favorite horror movie of all time. No big deal.
You mean besides Chainsaw?
Well, of course. Duh.
Yeah.
Hello.
So Josh, I have a question. So you were just talking about actors and how as an actor, instead of looking at a tennis ball on a stick versus seeing an actual like monster or creature in front of them that was actually created by the special effects, has the new technology, because I've learned all of this tonight, like what you were talking about with stormtroopers and everything, has the new technology shortened the duration of time in the makeup chair for these actors that are dressed?
the time in the makeup chair, no. because anytime you're putting prosthetics on someone, it kind of takes a finite amount of time. You can get it faster the more you practice with it and the more times you apply something if you're doing something day to day. But in terms of like the interface with the actors, I would say no. If you're talking about suits, like armor suits, like the Mandalorian suits or the Star Wars suits or any of that kind of stuff, it probably does, because the suits are built like to incredible specificity to fit on a specific person. So It seems like the amount of time and precision would probably go down for that. But in terms of prosthetics, there's definitely still an analog experience between the makeup artist and the actor that has to happen. And some of the technology, like the stuff we used on even the Passion of the Christ, which was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Like using Brigade transfers, that stuff. Like if you've got an appliance that works within that technology, it has to be pretty thin, like no more than really half an inch.
What does that mean in human people talk?
What's that?
That went right over our head.
What does that mean in human people talk?
So it's kind of like a 3D tattoo transfer. Have you seen those? Like for Halloween, like you take a piece of paper that has a thing on it and you like stick it on your skin and you blot it down and then peel it off, and then you've got what looks like a tattoo on your skin.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a 3D version of that. Brigade is a glue that we all use, and it's like a medical adhesive, and there's a way to thicken it and make it more dense. So you sculpt it, you spoon it into a mold, and then you stick it onto tattoo transfer paper, and you stick it onto the skin, and it just sticks there.
Very cool.
Made of glue. And it's also very, because it's translucent, so it blends with your skin tone really well, and the edges completely disappear. It's not like foam latex where you can see edges around pieces. Like it just disappears into the skin. So, but that technology, which was developed by Christian Tinsley, over at between himself and the shop that I was working at, that stuff has now become like industry standard. So if you're doing like little wounds, little scars, little cuts, little boils, things that are pretty tight to the skin, not monsters necessarily, but wounds and that kind of stuff. That stuff you can apply in 10 minutes, 15 minutes,
and it just comes right off with no issues.
Yeah, for sure. Or
crazy.
Or alternatively, because it's made of glue, if you take care of it, it can last 4 or 5 days. So you don't even have to reapply it.
Oh, that's cool.
When we were doing the Passion, because we covered Jim Caviezel
Right.
Literally head to toe in these appliances. And as long as he was willing to, which he was, because he was an incredible, we'd start that makeup at 4:00 in the morning, and he would wear it until 8:00, when we wrapped shooting.
Oh,
and we'd cover his entire body in baby powder. Like wrap him up with ace bandages and send him home, and then he'd show up at 4:00 in the morning.
That's awesome.
Baby powder off, and then he'd go again.
Wow.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it's really incredible stuff, and now it's only gotten better. Of course, that was like in its infancy, and so now it's gotten really.
So like something I kind of picked up what Tyler was saying. So like going old school, the original trilogy of Star Wars, and I'm just throwing this out there. It's probably dumb coming from me, but it took 3 years for each sequel. The ones that just recently came out, it was every 2 years. So I'm wondering, is that it helped the production because they could make everything in mass quantities so quickly?
Yeah, and really a lot of that technology came from doing commercials, like the Legacy guys, that's the biggest effect shop in town, which is an extension of the Stan Winston studios from the old days.
Gotcha.
2 of those guys from that original crew started Legacy, and they really got their foothold in doing commercials. And commercials, of course, have no time and no prep, so they really had to jump into figuring out how to do things quickly, and they just started using the 3D technology because they could model something in Maya and then just drop it into the 3D printers. And then, those just the technology got better and more involved and more detailed. And it used to be where you'd pull something out of a 3D printer and you'd spend 2 days polishing it and sanding it off. And now it's printing in color. You can print an entire head that has all the different colors. And I saw when they were doing Caroline, I was in Portland, and I got a tour of the Leica facility, and they were pulling heads off of out of the printer buffing them off with a polish, and it was just done. Like eyes were there, freckles on the skin, like everything was just
That's
done.
nuts.
And that, I mean, that was what, 10 years ago? How long was Coraline? Like,
Yeah, something like that.
incredible technology.
Hey, Josh, my nemesis is asking right here, how long did the Jim's back take to do?
Jim Caviezel's?
Yes.
I'm
You
assuming
mean
you're
for
talking
the,
Passion, yeah,
when
from
they-
Passion.
when they beat
Where
him.
the
they
right.
beat him.
the entitled flagellation sequence?
Yes.
That was awful. Ugh.
It was the same. I mean, just the back. It took us about an hour and a half, I think. It was 5 of us doing Jim's makeup every day. I did Jim's right leg, and there was another guy doing the left leg, and then there was something on each of his arms in the middle. And so there's 5 of us that put all of those appliances on. And then Christian did his face, and then we had an Italian makeup artist that applied his beard. His beard is not real in that movie. It is 100% hand laid every day by this brilliant Italian makeup artist that would just like apply it like, little bunches of hair at a time. Such incredible work. But about an hour and a half to do his whole body. But then we shot the flagellation sequence for, I think, about 2 weeks. So like just a piece at a time. And the company that I was working for was doing the makeup effects and the visual effects. So I was working on both crews. Makeup effects and visual effects, and the VFX supervisor Ted Ray would figure out, we'd storyboard the sequence and figure out which piece would need to be applied, and then we'd do digital applications. So we'd like the part where the rib part rips off, we would shoot him first with no appliances, and then we'd apply the appliance and then shoot it again and then composite those 2 later. So it was a really meticulously detailed sequence.
I wonder what the actual number of people have seen his work, since that's probably just one of the highest grossing movies of all time.
Yeah.
I know that scene alone.
Oh, it's terrible.
I watch like this because just the sound enough. I don't have to see it.
Yeah, and it was going to be much longer. Mel wanted it to be 10 or 15 minutes to really just like drive home the point.
Oh no, you got the point across
Yeah,
at the
you
time
did.
that it did.
Oh yeah.
I wanted to
Did not need
puke.
any more than that. I remember going to see it in the theater when it first came out, because I worked on the movie almost 2 years, like for a very long time, because I was among the first handful of people hired to do R&D when we were figuring out what was going to be digital and what was going to be physical. Because I mean, this was 2002, I think, when we started. So digital
research and development.
research.
Thank you.
We were figuring out what was going to be, digital and what was going to be physical based on what technology was available at the time. And then I went on to produce the visual effects and all through post-production. So we built a model shop and like all this other just amazing work. But I was on that movie a very long time.
Wow, I didn't realize it.
Well, y'all did a great job
Yeah.
because it was. To this day, I can still see the movie without looking at it and hear it, everything, all of it, the whole thing.
Thank you.
So now that you are producing, directing, and everything, and I'm sure you're pulling from, because you still clearly, even though that was 2002, you still clearly remember all the work that went into those 2 years and all the details and how they shot with those appliances and everything. Do you apply a lot of those things today, a lot of the shooting techniques? Or is it just kind of like that was so long, meticulous that you're just like, I just want to find a better way to do it?
I don't think I've ever thrown anything away that was valuable. Like anything that you learn when you're shooting something that's that complex, and when you're working with people that are so just absurdly talented. Yeah. I mean, working around Mel, and I worked with him again on Apocalypto for a little bit, and Ted Ray, the VFX supervisor, and I mean Christian, who was the makeup effects supervisor, and just all those pieces. There's nothing wasted in all of the things that we learned then. Probably, well, maybe the only thing wasted is all of the things that I know about developing film, and color timing film, and negative cutting and stuff. That stuff is pretty much wasted. But
it's gone now.
But everything else you learn about, I mean, and that's what's so great about doing a lot of things in movies is that everything applies to everything else. Like every movie that I do, I learn something new to carry with me to whatever the next project is. And it's so valuable and so much fun. And, you work with people like, in supervising post-production as I have for the last decade for the studios and stuff. Like I've learned more about directing by post-supervising than I have with anything else, because I get to spend 6-8 months a year with these just like incredibly talented, inspiring directors and see what they do and how their process works, and really being able to study them on the ground floor. And it's the kind of opportunity you don't really get if you go to film school and just start directing just right out of the box, because all you ever know about directing is how you direct. And that doesn't mean that you are, you're missing anything by that. But I think it can be a more challenging process to get to know yourself as a director, because you don't have any comparison. Directors don't work with other directors. All they know is how they get stuff done.
Can I ask real quick? Like, this is something I wanted to say a while ago, but I was waiting. That was the perfect time. So on your stuff, it says post-production supervisor.
Mm-hmm.
Can you please just real quick explain what that means? Because
Sure.
You did on Annabelle. I saw.
Mm-hmm.
I captured that and showed the guys earlier in our direct message. I put up. We have it, so I put up on the TV and clicked on the credit, and I was like, I want to know what that means.
All right. So post-production supervising is from the time that the movie finishes shooting to the time it gets delivered to the studio. That period is called post-production.
Okay.
So that includes editing, sound design, visual effects, titles design, as well as versioning. Like, different. Anytime you deliver a movie to a studio, you have to deliver multiple different versions, not necessarily TV versions, but you have to deal with closed captioning. You have to deal with CCSLs, which is it's a document that has all the different, like every word that gets said, every action that gets taken, so it can be sent out to the rest of the world, because you do a movie in English, but you've got 30 other territories and 10 other languages that you need to have it dubbed into. And so it's very it's a very detail-oriented process that happens after you finish the movie. And I actually found out about this process when I finished the first feature that I directed, Family, which I directed in 2005 or something. I got to the end of the movie and I finished the movie and I cut it together because I was working at a visual effects facility that was also at the makeup effects facility. So I learned a lot about post-production and color correction and all that stuff. So I finished that and I was like, here's the movie. And I was lucky enough to get a distributor for it. Lifetime bought it. And then they were like, oh, here's all the other things that you need. And I was like,
Oh, wow.
what are you talking about? Like,
What are you talking about?
here's the movie, it's done. And they were like, no, you got to get Dolby out to do your surround mix. You need to Dolby for sound mix. You got to get your Dolby license. You've got to get your CCSLs. You've got to get it's just like this raft of paperwork that had to be done in order for them to accept delivery of it, which when you look at it all makes total sense. But it's the kind of thing that, as creative filmmakers, you never imagine you're going to have to deal with, but it is extensive.
So that is such a good point, Josh, because especially in independent films and everything, people don't even want to do SAG paperwork. They want to do non-union, not have to deal with the SAG paperwork. But to really do everything the way that it should be done in post-production, with everything that you said, with Dolby, with closed captioning, all these different things, it takes a lot of detail and patience. Even going back to Passion of the Christ, when you were shooting those scenes and everything, patience. So many independent filmmakers just want to get their film shot because they want to see it done. They want to see what's in their head out, and they want to post it, but they just don't have the patience to say, okay, this scene might take 2 weeks. Like you said, the flagellants.
Easy for you to say, Tyler Shea.
Correct me on this.
The flatulence scene.
Okay, so that's
a comedy cut of that scene.
Yes.
And I would imagine now that was a big budget, Mel Gibson, all that stuff.
Wasn't that big a budget? $26 million.
Wow.
Oh, well,
Whatever.
Chump change. Right
Yeah.
now.
but still, to say okay, we're going to take 2 weeks to shoot this, where I would see more filmmakers be like, we got to shoot this in 2 days.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, you always have to work sort of inside the box that you're given. budget determines everything, because if you can only get $20,000, then maybe you got to shoot that scene in half an hour. Like it really becomes all proportional. And so there's always a balance whenever you're setting up a new project to whether you can actually make a movie for the amount of money that you have, but it all backs into however much money you've got. So if you've got 20 grand, maybe you need to be making a different movie. If you need 2 weeks to shoot a sequence and make it the right sequence, like there's a responsibility, I think, to the material that all filmmakers have, which is what is the best version of this movie that I can make for what I have. And sometimes you just say, you know what, it's not worth making this one, and you need to come up with a different idea. So
Okay.
you know, I give this advice to filmmakers a lot, where, you know, some people will say, well, you know, I've written a movie, but it's going to cost $20 million. I'm like, well, have you made a movie before? And they're like, no. And I'm like, well, you should write a different movie then, because you're not going to make a $20 million movie. Like, you know, we all hear these stories, you know, the Blair Witch Project stories, where it's like, we made this movie $15,000 and it made $100 million in the box office. That's going to be my movie. No, it's not. It's just not. Like that is basically like going down and plunking down $100, or, you know, let's say $1 million on betting on black in Vegas. Like it's you can't depend on that. So you have to be realistic about what you make as a filmmaker and what you want to make. So I'm not saying don't write a script that costs $20 million to make. Write everything you want. Like write what inspires you. Write what makes you happy. Wow. But if you want to turn that dream into reality and actually make that movie, you know, write a $50,000 horror movie and mortgage your house. Like that's what you've got to do to get moving. And it's a harsh reality, but you know, the independent filmmaking now is like the ideas are a dime a dozen. It's your ability to execute an idea that gets you noticed and gets you moving. But you know, even people in my situation, I've been working in movies 30 years. I know everyone at every major studio. I know tons of line producers. I know tons of financiers, and I still have a really hard time getting, you know, a $200,000 movie made. Wow. There's no magic bullet. In every project that you do, you have to fight for it just as hard as the last project. And that's not just me. Like there's no one in Hollywood, even Steven Spielberg, unless he wants to put up his own money, can just drop a dime and get a movie made. Like it doesn't work that way. So, you know, for filmmakers that are looking to get their own projects going, like you've really got to evaluate your material and make sure that you can make the movie that you want to make for the budget that you have, and balance those two things together. Because, you know, if you need 2 weeks to shoot a sequence, but you only have 2 weeks of shooting and to make the whole movie, then you need to change your idea to fit into that box so you can still make a great movie. Because ultimately that's the most important thing, is to make a great movie. And, you know, maybe the sequence is your dream sequence, and you feel like you've got to make this sequence in order to make the movie, then don't make that movie. Make another movie, and then that'll be a stepping stone to make that sequence and bring that.
As we've gone on this little journey we've been on, the independent part of it, I've been really embracing short films a lot. Now I never, you know, 5-6 years ago, I probably would have never given a film a chance, and I'm seeing some really good stuff that may only be like 20 or 30 minutes long. I mean, really, and hopefully those guys will move on to bigger features. I guess that's the end goal.
Yeah. And you know what? And the thing that I've kind of come to realize that, you know, after having done this as long as I have, is that directors don't get to practice very often.
Right.
And
right.
Like we all know that in order to do creative things well, we've got to practice. Like whether you're painting or drawing or acting or dancing or Cirque du Soleil or whatever, like you only get good at what you're doing by practicing. And so, you know, if you're lucky as a working film director, you make one movie a year, maybe one movie a year. If you're lucky, if you're working, I mean, unless you're a TV director and then you're making 40 episodes of TV, and that's a different thing. But you know, if you're a film director, you're making one movie a year, one movie every 2 years, something like that. It's hard to get good at what you're doing.
Yep.
if you're only getting to practice once a year. So short films are great for doing that. And that's what I've really come to embrace and love about doing them, is that I get to practice being a director. Like, I don't get to be a director all the time. And,
Exactly.
when I do, it's awesome. And then every time, and I try and make the amount of time that happens between directing projects shorter and shorter, so I keep up the momentum. But like, I find that when I only direct something once a year, I'm having to constantly remind myself of things that I'd learned last time. Like, you just don't get good at things. So yeah, direct short films, get in there, and just like the point is to practice and direct and like get good at it. You can develop a language with your actors, develop a language with your editor, with your cinematographer. Like, all those things come from practice.
And you going back to the Relic, you wrote, produced, and directed the Relic. And then after everything was said and done, you started to submit that to festivals, and it's been doing very well in festivals as well. But then that's the next step that you have to do. So it's not just like, hey, here's my movie, everybody enjoy. Now you've got to follow up with the PR, you've got to do the festivals, you've got to get out of it.
It's
The prostitution stage.
And when are you working on something else? Because you got to do that. You see, exactly what you're saying.
I directed a short film called Lunch Ladies a couple of years ago that was written and produced by a woman named Clarissa Jacobson. And I cannot tell you how inspired I was by how she took this on. She wrote it. She wrote a short film from a feature that she'd written. She had held on to like a nest egg that she got, and really just wanted to only put, like, she lives in a 1-bedroom apartment, but she wanted to put all the money that she had into making something that she wrote. Like, that was the thing that she wanted. Was she's a writer, she's written dozen screenplays, and she hadn't had anything produced, had some stuff optioned, but she just wanted to have something produced that she wrote. So she saved her money, and that's what she did. She put it into it. She put the whole project together. She'd never produced anything, never really worked she'd never worked on set at all. She'd been an actor before, but hadn't really worked on set. And she just took the entire thing on and brought me on as the director. And it was so incredible to watch her, both like become a producer or really more realize that she was already a producer. And then afterwards, she made it like for a year. It was a full-time job for her to promote the movie, to submit it to festivals. She saved part of her budget for festival submissions. Like, who does that? Like, everyone should do that. And she literally wrote a book about making a short film and putting it in festivals called, like, I think it's called I Made a Short Film, Now What the Fuck Do I Do With It?
That's right.
Let me write that down.
It is the best reference you will ever have of how to succeed with a short film. And so I'm so lucky to have watched her, been involved with the project that she was part of, because she just destroyed it. We've been in over 100 festivals with Lunch Ladies. It still plays around the world. It's got worldwide distribution. We still get into new festivals all the time. It's been on the circuit for 3 years. It's on Amazon Prime, it's on Canopy, and she's just done such an incredible job. So once you finish the movie, making the movie doesn't matter, because it doesn't matter how great your movie is if nobody watches it.
Right.
So you got to getting it into festivals, and making something both that, like, it's important to strategically make something that festivals want. Like, for me, it was just like, make the best movie that you can, but make the best movie that you can as long as it's under 15 minutes, because festivals want stuff that's under 15 minutes because they can program 5 or 6 into a 2-hour block. If you make a 25-minute short film, it's going to decrease your chances of getting into festivals by like many hundreds of percents, because it's not programmable. So like all these things that I've learned about, even if you make something genre, like if you can make a short film that is 12 to 15 minutes or under 10 minutes is amazing. Like if you make an 8-minute horror short film, you will get into every festival on the planet because they can put it in and make it fit into a 2-hour block. So like, just the strategy of that was amazing to learn. So
and those are good. They're really good. Because she bought me the passes to the Houston Horror Film Festival online.
Yeah.
And I saw some really good stuff. I'm blown away. And like you said, 8 minutes, 15 minutes. The longer ones, I was kind of like, I'm missing out on some of the other things good I could do with these longer ones,
Yeah, totally.
But they're great.
Josh, did you follow her lead and you saved up some of your budget from the Relic for festivals?
Yeah.
You did?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So everybody should do that.
Yeah. And, I guess I kind of follow her lead also on requesting waivers from festivals because, festivals, especially this year, have been hit so hard by the pandemic that people aren't buying tickets. They're not making money. And, most of these festivals, not all of them, but most of them are really just genuine people that just love horror movies or love film and are super passionate about it and just want to bring people together and bring the community together and just give people a chance to see things they don't normally get to see. I mean, short films are not a commercial medium. So, how often the only time we really get to see short films is when we go to horror festivals. And it's just, even though a lot of them have become digital, it's been pretty bleak. So by, paying $30 or $40 or $50 to a festival to submit your movie is supporting that entire community.
Right.
And so I really I probably could have requested a lot of waivers for the Relic, but I didn't. And it's because I saved money out of the budget to help support those festivals. Those festivals support us. They support our community.
That is awesome.
All of those people who love horror and love to, support the art and evolution of horror throughout time as it continues to develop. I think it's just really important to support your community. Like in the same way you buy an album when something comes out that you you instead of stealing it, you pay the $15 or $20 or whatever because you're supporting.
Kids don't steal.
Supporting the artist.
Shouldn't have to say it.
Yeah.
Don't steal.
Yeah.
Damn
And in
it.
2021, it's really important, especially because of the pandemic, to really support artists out there, festivals, artists, everything, because everybody's trying to survive, and so rather than going out there and stealing films or stealing music or anything like that, support the artists, support the festivals, pay your way in instead of getting the waivers like Josh is saying, just everybody help each other out. So,
Yeah.
Don't steal, damn it.
We read too often sometimes in our vast group of people on Facebook where you hear, "Oh, I watched it. Oh, how'd you watch it? It's not out. Oh, well, I just did." And you're like, "Dude, these are your friends. Don't do that to them. This is the only way they get anything, and it might be just pennies, but it matters."
It does matter.
And I would like to see the Relic, but I would like to see it at, through a festival, rather than like, "Hey, Josh, can you send me a link to it?" I mean, I'd like to see it through a festival.
You can.
How do we? How do we see the Relic through festivals, or how do we?
Right now, we are playing right now in the Nevermore Film Festival in North Carolina.
That's right, Nevermore.
Yeah, and that just started on Friday, but it's just a 10-state limitation right now. So it's 10 states around North Carolina that can buy passes. I think it's something to do with their license or something. But starting next week, it will be at the Midwest Weird Fest, which is in Wisconsin. It's a great, really cool little festival, and it'll play there all weekend. And that will be accessible worldwide. And then after that, we've got the Idlewild International Festival of Cinema that will also be digital and available worldwide. So really for the foreseeable next 3 weeks, it is available to see if you buy a ticket for those events.
So the Weird Fest would be the best way to see it. That's
the next way to see it. Yeah, unless you live close to North Carolina, which definitely if you do, you should check it out at Nevermore Film Festival. It's such a great festival. It's run by amazing people that are all just horror nerds like us that really support the community, and they're terrific. I was just going to look to see what the date was for Midwest Weird Fest.
The Dales will be watching, I bet.
If you would, when you have those dates, if you'll send them through to Tyler, he can forward them and we'll get them posted.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great.
We'll
Midwest Weird Fest is a terrific festival, and Idlewild is the film festival that's taking place in the town where we actually shot the Relic.
Cool.
It was really cool to get into that one and feel like we're kind of coming home.
Ken wants to know if it's been in Fantasia Festival.
Submissions are not open for it. We actually finished it right when Fantasia was playing. We finished it in October. So as soon as submissions open again, we're definitely going to submit it.
So Relic, is that new? It just came out in October.
October, yeah, finished.
Wow. Okay.
We got into. I submitted it in September to Telluride Horror, and that was the first festival that we got into. So even as a rough cut, so I had to scramble to finish it for the October premiere.
Sweet.
So we have like 10 minutes, but I wanted to ask you, one of my questions was your IMDb, besides you've swept the floors to building the building to everything, you've got 30 awards. Is that for like everything you've ever done, or is that any specific job you've done where most of them are for?
I think that they're all for either Lunch Ladies or the Relic.
Wow.
Okay.
So
Nice.
yeah.
That's nice.
Cool.
That's awesome.
That is very cool.
That is pretty
Unreal
awesome.
to me too. Like I look at that and I'm like, really? It just makes me so happy that people have liked the stuff that I've made that much, and it's really flattering and humbling to be included and played all over the place.
I can't wait to see it.
Did you see Luciana's question? Did y'all see that, Tyler?
I missed it.
Is there a one-stop shop where you can get a list of the festivals you can submit your short to?
Film Freeway.
Film Freeway.
Filmfreeway.com. That is the place to submit. There used to be a couple of different like film festival submission places, but a lot of places will only take it if you submit through Film Freeway. So you can upload your movie, you can upload your poster and everything. So you only have to enter the information once, which is incredibly helpful. So you just basically build your project and then you can just hit submit to whatever festivals you want. It's
Josh, our friend from the future, Itai Guberman at My Indie Productions.
From the future.
He is from Australia.
Oh, he's
looking for reviews. He would be happy to review your movie.
Oh, wow.
So,
thank you. How do I just let me know how to get in touch, and I'll
okay.
I'd love for.
I'll tell you what in the green room after the show. I'll tell you.
Yeah, please.
I get in touch with him. So yeah.
So we're gonna we got 8 minutes, and we're trying to get Joe and all of us, since it's a weird Monday tomorrow for all of us. We're trying to make sure we get done on time.
End of the month.
Yeah.
Is it a weird Monday? What does that mean?
Well, it's a short month, so like work is like crazy.
She's gonna get slammed tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
March 1st, I see.
yeah, we were like, yeah, we'll try to make sure, because sometimes we go over, but tonight we want to make sure that we stay on time and be conscious of time. But anything you're working on currently besides where you are right now with Relic and everything?
Well, I mean, with the pandemic, general work has been pretty slow for the last year. And I've really been trying to take as much of that time as possible to just write and create new content, because I know that once production gets back up on its feet in August, there's going to be, thousands of projects that have been building up and waiting and percolating this entire time that are just going to explode. And it's going to be a ridiculous production time because no one has content. Like everyone's just been rationing everything for the last year.
Or perfecting it, writing it over and over and over again.
Yeah,
right.
For sure, yeah. There's going to be a ridiculous production glut come, middle of summer probably once the vaccine starts taking hold. And so I've just been trying to write as much as possible to get as much ready to go to hopefully, catch the wave if that's in the cards. But I've got 2 features that I'm writing right now that are sort of based in the world of the Relic. Which is really an H.P. Lovecraft world. I mean, it's.
Oh man, I'm dying to see this.
I made it sort of out of a fugue state that I entered after the end of 2019. I listened to the entire 20-something hours of all of H.P. Lovecraft's fiction on audiobook. I listened to every story that he wrote, and it just fell into my brain, and I was just like, I wonder what's going to happen. And so I ended up writing the Relic, and that's what came out of it. And so since then, I've been continuing to sort of just say, there's not really a great representation of Lovecraft's work in modern horror cinema. Of course, Lovecraft Country is its own thing and is brilliant and inspiring. But I think that there's a lot more that can be done. I mean, really, since Brian Usna and Stuart Gordon made their Lovecraft movies, there hasn't been really that much into it. And I mean, he's always been a passion of mine. So I've really been trying to get more of that those ideas and build a world based around those ideas, and see if I can get something going.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
Where could people find you at? Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff.
On Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, I am at JMLFilm, FILM, no S. And then jmlfilm.com is my website.
Awesome.
I wish we had 2 hours because there's so much more. I wanted to talk about the Relic and what you've been doing.
And we didn't get to catch up at all. We haven't seen each other in like 20 years.
That's crazy.
Here I'm just talking about
the last time we physically saw each other was in Los Angeles.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, before you, why did you move out of Los Angeles? I don't remember.
My first wife wanted me to get out of acting, and we moved to LA. And she was,
not good for you. Yeah,
she was not good for me from the get-go, and that's why you and I didn't see each other, because she was not good. She kind of trapped me from anybody who I knew from my past. You were connected to Janae and Liz and people from my past that she didn't want me connected with, and so it's
sad.
Very sad.
You're such a great actor. I really hope you keep.
Thank you.
That's back into it, because you were a natural from the beginning. Like, just took right into it.
Tyler is for hire.
Yeah, we started that hashtag.
I appreciate that. I really do. I lost some of my natural ability. The older you get, the more you kind of become a little bit more introspective, and you're like, well, I don't want to pretend. I'm an adult now. I can't just play.
And self-critical, you start to talk yourself out of stuff that didn't even used to be a question when you were younger.
Yeah,
I have to say, Josh, I've known Tyler. We've known Tyler since September of 2017, and you've come up many times in conversation, and he beams. I'm talking literally beams when he talks about you.
We had a lot of fun together, and I mean, Trolls Bridge. Which,
that's your only acting credit.
I'm sure that.
That's your only acting credit.
Uncle Joe in
Uncle Joe.
Not even in the movie.
No, you were in the movie.
That was terrible.
You were.
Andy cut the scene. I am. No,
you are.
I am.
Yeah.
I thought he cut that scene.
You come to the door, and I come and talk to you a little bit. Because remember, no, seriously, real quick. We go into a house. We filmed in a house in Cheapside, Texas, that had fucking bats in it.
Oh yeah,
and
while we were filming
this house, and there's bats flying around the inside of the house. They're like on the walls and everything.
That's crazy.
And he did his own makeup to look like
an
Uncle Joe or Uncle Ben, whatever. Yeah. And then I just come to the screen door and knock on the door, and there's like bats all flying. That was crazy. We found houses that had been abandoned since like the 70s.
Yeah.
We were always ghost hunting.
Yeah. And we shot it for like a year and a half, because it was just like we'd shoot like 2 or 3 days, and then we'd take like a week off, and then we'd shoot 2 or 3 days. So we shot that movie forever. Like
my facial hair
was like 3 years older.
3-day period. And we never got to finish a Thakwa. Or we never even started a Thakwa.
Oh yeah, we never started it. Yeah.
That would have been a fun one. The runner.
Well, it's never too late.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, that would have been a fun one. We'll have to next time we do the show, because you're gonna have to come back on, Josh.
Hell yes, he is.
We'll talk about getting a gun pulled on us.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Wow. Fireworks.
Yeah.
And then when Andy played a prank on us with a T-shirt and a stick.
It's the most scared I've ever been in my entire life. Really, the most scared I thought I was going to.
That's awesome.
Die.
We pulled our tents down like in about 10 seconds. I mean, we grabbed our tents, yanked them out of the ground, and shoved them into the car, because we thought this crazy guy was going to kill us.
Wow.
That's awesome.
We do have to do this again. We'll have to come back.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for having me on, and for being even interested in what I'm doing. I mean, you guys.
Absolutely. You're fantastic.
Such a cool show, and
you're family now, Josh. You're family now.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Don't go away. We're going to drop you down like we did when we did our intro, and then when everything's done, we're going to come back in and talk to you when we're not live.
Okay, great. I'll hang out.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Josh. Tyler?
Good job, awesome. Tyler. Yeah.
That hour shot by.
There's so much more. I could have done this for 2 or 3 more hours.
Well, let's just say we will. Just at another day.
Yeah, we'll set another day.
We'll do a part 2. George and them have been bringing the Monster Squad guys back. We can bring Josh back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Josh part 2.
That's right.
And I hope, I mean, I wasn't expecting this from the show. Everything that he said about, I mean, just all of his experience and everything, like I learned so much from everything that he said about, you know, not just from the technology and like the big budget films and everything, but the low independent films. And I did not mean to disrespect independent filmmakers by saying,
no.
Well, I mean, the way that it sounded, and Ty called me out on it, and he's right. I don't mean to sound like, you know, they just want to rush through and get the film done. They're only able to do what they do with the budget. But just like Josh said, also is like you have to be able to balance the two. So if you want to make this film, but you only have a smaller budget, you've got to figure out, is that the film to make?
Right.
And so many people, I imagine, would get it in their head that that's the film they have to make. Well, they could set that aside, do some other short films and practice and get better at it, and then learn about financing and everything else that goes into pre-production and post. And then when they really want that one that they've been dreaming about their entire time, by the time they hit it, maybe they're going to be even that much better because of the practice.
Exactly.
So, you know, I learned a massive amount from him tonight. I mean, I might even become a filmmaker.
What? You heard it here first.
Hey, Tyler,
You're too pretty.
your
You're too
slate
pretty.
is open right now. You can be who and what you want to be.
That's true.
I mean, where are you going to go tomorrow, right?
I'm going to Mexico to go see Yasmin.
In Mexico?
Yeah, we're going to Mexico.
God.
Nice.
So Yasmin's actually, she's getting up in 1 hour. She's going to get on the plane.
Did you read that?
Look what Itai just said to you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yep.
No offense at all.
Right.
No offense at all.
But yeah, so we're gonna go to Tulum outside of Cancun, and Josh was actually talking to me about Tulum tonight because he went 10 years ago. And yeah, we're super excited, and she's also she's
Is she working?
Well, right now because pandemic, I mean, it's really tough.
Oh, okay.
And she's looking for representation in Texas, New Mexico, Atlanta.
Okay.
You know, because I'm like, you know, open it up everywhere. But everybody's just kind of like, I understand it's kind of tough because she lives in Germany, but she's not always going to live in Germany.
If people know me and just would look at the IMDb for a certain movie, they would see Yasmin in that movie. The IMDb.
Yeah.
The same one with you in it.
So she's on Instagram under Hello Yasmin, so you can kind of follow. You know, she puts her own content up, which is awesome, and she's inspiring me to eventually get out of my shell to try to do something like that. She's really pushing me to go back to what I was telling Josh earlier about when you're younger and you're like that, you're natural because you don't have all these inhibitions. Well, I've gotten a ton of inhibitions over the last 3 decades, two or 3 decades.
And so I've only been telling you to go for it since 17, right?
Hmm?
I've only been telling you to go for it since 17. So, I mean, at least Yasmin got through to you.
Well, yeah, he hasn't gotten through to me. She's trying. I'm a fucking hard shell, man. She's trying. Like she's done auditions with me, and she's just like, "Ugh."
Oh, wow.
What's the reel you put together, and it's got different scenes from different things you've done? What is the technical term for it?
Acting reel?
I went
A demo reel.
Demo reel?
demo reel. She's got one on her Facebook, and I watched it. I've watched it twice actually.
Yeah,
She's got like multiple personalities. She's
It's
actually
awesome.
fun to watch. She's
completely.
a badass and a sweetie at the same time.
Well, that and also like when she does photography, like any kind of photographs and stuff, she's like a chameleon. She looks different almost all the time.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Totally pull off these different looks and everything.
We'll have to get her on the show one time,
Definitely.
too.
I would honestly say she is the most talented actress I've ever met.
Cool.
Aw. Well, we know where you can find Tyler,
Yeah.
and if you don't, you could always ask Lance.
I'll direct you. I'll send you the right way.
Yeah, and sorry, I'm not really on social media all that much. I have it, but But
hey, it's life.
Hi.
If y'all want to find us, look for the Red Beard.
Tyler
Yeah,
Shea
Sean, absolutely, man. That'd be great.
Yes.
I'd love to. Yeah, and I did see that earlier, Sean. I apologize. You said something about fingers, and I assume that has something to do with your injury. So that might be that. Yeah, I mean, and if you get it at 8 minutes, like Josh said, you can get it into a festival.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, we love y'all. We're taking a little break, so we don't know when we'll be back, but we'll be back.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll definitely be back. We love y'all. Kiss.
Love you guys. Love you, Tyler.
Love you, Tyler. Love you, Joe. Love everybody.